Hello everyone! In today's video, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about the evolution of Klingon vessels. We'll be starting out reviewing these ships right before the creation of the Federation, all the way to the end of the Dominion War. This will allow us to find out how these ships changed throughout the different centuries, including their society. It's common to assume that the Klingon society is solely based on war. Throughout the different generations, there's been a huge gap in different professions where a majority of the Klingons try to be warriors and neglect key areas such as being a scientist or engineer. Throughout this video, we'll be finding out these issues within their society and how it leads to the different designs of their ships. At the beginning of their empire, the Klingon vessels could only go up to warp 1.5 until they got their hands on Herc technology. This allowed them to travel to different solar systems that would have taken them years. Over time, they eventually became a galactic empire. There are an array of different vessels designed and deployed in the 22nd century, such as the D4 and D5 class. The D4 class has a great design which was used by future ships. Its predecessor, the D5, was produced with a different design with more disruptors. Past battlecruisers were built with more torpedo launchers, which was effective for long-range attacks, but the Klingon Navy wanted a ship that can get close to its enemies and bring massive damage. The Klingon ships during this time didn't possess cloaking technology and had to rely on weapons and deflector shields to protect themselves from enemy ships. Even in the 22nd century, the Klingons are still using disruptors on photon torpedoes, which are still commonly used weapons within their fleet. Over time, these tools were improved and implemented on the D6 class, which was launched in the early 23rd century. At satellite speeds, this vessel had high capacity for maneuverability and possessed the first warp drive that can go up to warp 8, theoretically. The average speed of the ship was warp 5.6, but due to the design flaw of the warp coil, the vessel could only reach a maximum warp of 7.3. The D6 was soon replaced with a better designed D7 class. Originally, the D6 was a standard cruiser with short-range disruptors, but the Klingons eventually learned that this was a huge flaw. What kept this ship alive was its design and its ability to support variances. The two main variances of this ship was a missile cruiser which provided firing support for the fleet and a commando cruiser which delivered troops to planetary combat. Cosmetically, there's no difference between the D6 to the D7 class, except having more weapons and possessing a powerful engine. The D7 class cruiser is considered a highly capable and versatile starship and has been shown to be a formidable opponent in battles. As mentioned before, the design of the ship originally came from the D4 class. The main idea of this vessel was to unite the Klingons underneath one banner. Throughout the 2250s to 2270s, the D7 served as the backbone of the Klingon Empire and was a big threat to the Federation. The cruiser is equipped with a variety of weapons and defense systems, including disruptor cannons, photon torpedoes, and deflector shields. It's highly maneuverable and can travel at warp speeds of 9, which allows it to quickly respond to threats or engage offensive operations. One of the most notable features of the D7 class cruiser is its iconic design, with a distinctive bird of prey shape that has become synonymous with the Klingon starships. During the Klingon-Romulan alliance, the Klingons traded tons of D7 class cruisers in exchange for a working cloaking device. These vessels without cloaking technology was already a huge threat to the Federation, but if you added cloaking abilities to the mix, it changes everything. To even the odds, the Federation was able to steal a cloaking device from the Romulans, hoping to find out its secrets. Compared to the other ships created by the Klingons, the D7 class was the strongest during its time. It brought anxiety to the Federation, and the Romulans, who consider themselves and their technology superior than all others, noticed the ship's abilities and desired it. Eventually, newer classes of ships were introduced to the fleet, called the Katinga class, also known as the Bringer of Destruction. The Katinga class was a retrofitted D7. At the beginning of its deployment, the vessel was considered the most powerful warship within the Klingon Defense Force, and eventually served as their flagship. The vessel was bigger and had triple the amount of disruptors than the D7. Due to the ship's strength, it was still in service during the Dominion War. The classic design was created for war and to seek out their enemies. If we take a deeper look into Klingon ships, it's apparent that in the front of the ship it's heavily armed, but in the back of the ship is where the warp drive and shields are located, making this design perfect for forward attacking while also lacking in defense abilities. For centuries, this design kept the Klingon Empire in a dominant position, but eventually other ships with similar structures started to become more popular within the fleet. Most of these ships would fall underneath the umbrella of the Bird of Prey. The original name, the Bird of Prey, was believed to come from the Romulans, and eventually it was adopted by the Klingons. The Klingon designed in the 23rd and 24th century came from an older ship that was in service in the mid-22nd century. This vessel was quick and had powerful forward attacking abilities, but the main issue with all Klingon ships during this time was the cost of production. With development of more powerful weapons and finally obtaining cloaking technology, the Klingons got to a stage where they can design a class of ship that could be mass-produced and still have the ability to bring massive damage. This led to the development and production of the Vor'cha class. Classified as a scout ship, the Vor'cha was smaller than past ships, only being 157.76 meters in length. This vessel fit perfectly with Klingon tactics, with swarming and overpowering their enemies. What made this vessel unique compared to other past vessels was the ship's adjustable wings, which can take different positions to optimize the class for battle, warp speed, or landing. There was a modified version of the ship which could fire while being cloaked. Despite the huge advantage it provided, the modified ship was eventually destroyed by the Federation after a few months of deployment. Future development of the modification was never mass produced. In the 24th century, the Klingons developed a bigger version of the Vor'cha, called the Vor'cha class. The main reason why the Klingons decided to develop the Vor'cha was due to its predecessor's popularity. Creating a bigger Vor'cha class for patrol and escorting seemed to be the next step. The Vor'cha had the ability to carry double the amount of disruptors while also having the ability to move at similar speeds. Eventually, this class of ship would slowly be abandoned in the late 24th century due to cost and lack of popularity from the different Klingon houses. Over time, we got to see the different Star Trek factions started to develop bigger vessels with powerful weapons. Eventually, the Klingon Empire started to create similar classes of ships called the Vor'cha. During this time, the Klingons were in social decline. Greed and dishonor leaked into the High Council, and infighting started to occur. Granted, this was not uncommon for the Klingon Empire, but they were able to mask this issue for a long time through conquest. They also had to face another fact. After centuries of looking down upon individuals that joined the STEM field, this forced younger generations to avoid the subject, which halted any technological growth, and is probably the reason why the Vor'cha class also had so many development issues as well. Initially, the vessel was developed in the mid-24th century in an attempt to match the strength of other Federation ships. It quickly became the largest and most powerful vessel in the Empire. It has the same layout as past vessels by having the major weapons placed in the front of the vessel while also having the shields and warp drives stationed in the back. At the beginning, the vessel was limited to transporting higher ranking officials, but it eventually took up normal duties within the fleet after the launch of the Negh'Var class. The Negh'Var warship entered into service in late 24th century and became the largest class of cruiser within the fleet. When the Klingons first started developing larger ships such as the Vor'cha, they focused more on firepower than agility, which led to a lot of weaknesses since the majority of the Klingon ships operated in a fast-paced environment. This left the Vor'cha open to attack. To fix their mistake, the Klingons made sure that the Negh'Var had firepower and agility. It seemed that the Klingon Empire was at the cutting edge of designing powerful ships that brought fear to their enemies, but eventually they started to falter, and they spent the 24th century trying to catch up to other governments. In summary, the Klingon Empire became a major power in the Star Trek universe after focusing on designing powerful forward attacking vessels that were agile. The biggest changes throughout the years was the size, the price, and the technology that was gathered from the Romulans. Let me know your thoughts about the evolution of Klingon ships in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe, and don't forget to click on the notification button as well. For more sci-fi content, then please check out these other two videos on the screen and my socials. Thank you for watching Utopian broadcast, and I'll see you next time on my channel. Thank you.